It's 10 p.m. in Banjul, and welcome to another full hour of news reports and special features. The main stories this hour. Vice President Dr. NJIE said he joins world leaders taking turns to discuss issues of global concern at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Experts in malaria control assess their scorecard and outline strategies that earn the Gambia its impressive track record in the battle against the major killer disease. A united Germany gears up to commemorate the anniversary of the reunification with East Germany and the defeat of communism. And Russian fighter jets pound targets in the Syrian city of Homs barely an hour after Moscow informed Washington of its intentions. These and much more in the next 60 minutes. I am MOMODOU. The President, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya AJJ Jammeh Babili Mansa, is pleased to invite the general public to a zikr at the State House grounds tomorrow, Thursday, 1st October 2015 at 8 p.m. onwards. The Kanilai Zikr group will perform at the religious gathering. All are invited to attend. Since the United Nations General Assembly opened in New York, United Nations or nations around the world have been taking turns to address global issues ranging from the need for the world body to continue to uphold the ideals and principles it was created to defend. Among those who mounted the marble podium was the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Dr. NJIE Sedi, who emphasized the need to jealously guard the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda.
A sense of urgency to the increasing complexities of global challenges that threaten to derail hundreds of years of peace, progress, and prosperity for humanity. It is therefore imperative that as agents of change, the United Nations must not fail to account for and cement the implementation of critical resolutions designed to assist our member nations and indeed the entire universe for the improvement and sustainment of a better quality of life for all. Mr. President, in order to effectively achieve the goals set forth by this world body for the stability and maintenance, of course, of world peace, all member states, be they big or small, must be promptly and strongly reprimanded or censored for violations that are in direct conflict with the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. I remain firm in my constant recommendation for the whole world to stand together against the continued barbarism and brutality of indiscriminate terrorism against innocent men, women, and children, causing undue suffering and, of course, losses that often render the victims helpless, homeless, as well as hopeless. As genuine Muslims worshipping the Almighty Allah, whose message in the Holy Quran repeatedly draws our attention to the essence of living together in peace for our common humanness, we, the majority, of course, must not remain indifferent or silent. For to those particularly sadistic sons of Satan who are committed to desecrate Islam itself with only one objective and inclination, that is to wreak havoc on their fellow human beings. Let me say, as I have said in this forum, and indeed on many others elsewhere, that the propaganda and propagation of these satanic ideologies are not only a fraudulent misrepresentation of Islam, a noble religion indeed, and a mockery of democratic ideals, but an insult to the Almighty Allah Himself, making it ever more necessary to nullify their existence by all means possible. Their baseless claims and increasing attacks on peaceful regions particularly demand that we, the United Nations, join together to exterminate these barbaric monsters, as they have no regard for the sanctity of human life in the first place. Countries that are caught at the crossroads and who are embroiled in conflicts with terrorism deserve our unfettered and, of course, our unmitigated support. Hence, I call upon member nations to fully commit to this organization's basic tenets regarding the solidification of enduring solutions that protect and sustain all human life. There has
The Vice President and Women's Affairs Minister there addressing the United Nations General Assembly. Figures contained in the World Health Organization's malaria report highlight enormous achievements in the battle against the major killer disease. Despite the huge stumbling blocks militating against greater progress, the Gambia, a malaria endemic country, has been singled out for the significant inroads made to defeat malaria. An array of tools are being used to protect the population from the scourge of malaria, one of which is the distribution of 1 million high-quality mosquito nets in 2014 alone. Modu Bajan has our feature on the report.
It is one of the leading killer diseases on the continent and the world at large, as malaria globally claims over 400,000 lives, 78% of which, as per the 2014 WHO malaria report, comes from sub-Saharan Africa, a worrying health issue, which is a serious health challenge for countries like the Gambia.
Malaria is a major public health problem. It is responsible for so many deaths. For example, if a pregnant woman has malaria and is not treated on time, the pregnant woman can be anemic, they may have stillbirth, abortion. It can lead to so many complications. But among children under 5, they can also be anemic. Once they are anemic, it means they have lost a lot of, they don't have a lot of blood in their system. So it can result to anemia, and consequently, it can lead to death. It can kill. So the total consequences of malaria is killing.
Responsible for the overall control of malaria in the country, National Malaria Control Programs Manager Bala Kande talked of achievements at regional as well as national levels, highlighting significant gains in the Gambia's containment of the disease.
For Western region, the prevalence of malaria was 2.5 in 2010. But now, malaria has been reduced and is up to only 0.1% now. In North Bank region, in 2010, the prevalence of malaria was 3%. As we speak, malaria is only 0.2%. For Lower River region, in 2010, the prevalence of malaria was 0.8%. Now, malaria is only 0.1%. In the Central River region, the prevalence of malaria was 9%. Today, as we speak, malaria is less than 1%, 0.1%. So for Upper River region, in 2010, malaria was 4%. But now, as we speak today, the prevalence is 0.1%. In the Gambia generally, the prevalence of malaria in 2010 was 4%. Today, the malaria prevalence is 0.1%. So you can see from this data that a lot of achievement has been made over the years.
Kande having revealed that equally echoed stumbling blocks in the country's malaria control campaign.
One key challenge is you have given mosquito nets to people. How many people will sleep on the nets? Most people are not utilizing the nets. For government facilities, all the drugs for malaria treatment is free. You understand? But the challenge is people are not complying to treatment. When it comes to spraying, most of the time you see, especially in the rainy season, most people are in the field. So if you tell them that tomorrow you are going to spray their compound, some of them will not even come over. So it is going to be difficult. If you spray other rooms in the same compound and the others are not sprayed, it's another challenge.
The country's National Malaria Control Program Manager continued, highlighting interventions such as the utility of high-end mosquito nets and residual spraying that are continuously employed to tackle malaria and mosquitoes, the vector that circulates the killer disease.
Everybody should sleep under a net for the whole year around. That is why in 2014 we distributed over 1.6 million nets, and those nets are meant to be used. Recently, we have launched seasonal malaria chemo prevention. This is a process where we give children 3 to 59 months drugs to kill the malaria parasite in their system. The other important thing is the indoor residual spraying. This spraying was first pioneered by His Excellency in 2008. And since 2008, when actually it was recognized by the international community, then they decided to use that opportunity to also come in and support us. And as we speak today, there is spraying that has started in Basse.
As ever emphasized, the end point of malaria is death, and this sometimes occurs within days, with children under 5 bearing its brunt, despite the Gambia's international recognition resulting from its giant strides in handling its malaria scenario.
Because we have the support of government, that's why we know that in Africa today, most people are coming to Gambia to learn what we are doing, and how we are getting our achievement. In fact, that was why last January at the African Union, everybody knows about the award. His Excellency the President was awarded. The Gambia was selected among many countries as the best performing program when it comes to malaria.
To keep this anticipated momentum, all hands should perhaps be on deck for the continuity of mitigating malaria, a sore burden at home and abroad. MOMODOU Bajan, GRTS.
Despite the enviable gains made in the Gambia's drive to keep the Ebola virus at bay, health authorities are not lowering their guard. The Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Omar Sy, on Tuesday laid the foundation stone of an Ebola containment center at Jiboro border post. The intervention, as Ibrahim Jallo reports, is funded by the United Nations Development Program.
Have been directly or indirectly affected by the negative impact of the deadly Ebola virus, which broke out in few countries within the sub-region, including Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia, where the disease claimed hundreds of lives since the outbreak of the virus. The terrible circumstance Ebola causes in affected countries has sent a direct signal to other nations within the sub-region on the need to prevent the virus from crossing their territorial borders. Owing to this fact, the Gambia government, through the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, on Tuesday laid the foundation stone of an Ebola containment center at Jibora border point, thereby enhancing border surveillance in a bid to stop the disease from getting into the country. According to health officials, the project seeks to erect similar centers within 6 border posts across the country, bankrolled by the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, with support from the Japanese government at the tune of $10 million. The ceremony was presided by the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Omar Sy, and this is what he had to say.
So what we are doing as a country is, and this is a directive I have from the President, when the Ebola outbreak came, the President told me the only thing that you can do, and I want you to do, is to ensure that the surveillance is reinforced and make sure the necessary measures are put in place in line with the International Health Regulations 2005, which we have agreed on. Now, what we did as a country is to have one national plan, and this national plan is all inclusive. Everybody participated. Whether you are NGO, anywhere, you participate in the national plan, develop the plan, and cost it. And this is what we showed, because this is based on what we need as a country.
Yaya Jallo, who spoke on behalf of the Alcalde of Jiboro, Salif Seidi, welcomed the initiative while thanking government for its proactive efforts in the dispensation of primary healthcare services to the doorsteps of Gambians. Lady Council of Jiboro Ward Ashatu Nyasi and Service Chief Malek Njai all echoed similar sentiments. The project to be implemented by GAMWorks is expected to finish by December 2015, with a view to safeguard the country from Ebola, despite the Gambia is still declared an Ebola-free nation. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
Officials of the Gambia International Airlines, GIA, and those of the Office for Pilgrim Affairs have hailed the 2015 Hajj operations as a remarkable success. The verdict came after the third flight carrying 375 pilgrims touched down at the Banjul International Airport early Wednesday morning. Farmer Kanyi was there for GRTS, and he now reports.
So far, almost 75% of the pilgrims have safely landed in the country. It could be described as a tremendous work by the officials of the Gambia International Airlines and the Hajj Commission. The men and women who have gone on the third flight have reunited with their families. However, reports from the Amirul Hajj indicated that all Gambian pilgrims who have gone for the 2015 Hajj are safe and sound, except 2 who are still at large.
About 75% of the pilgrims are now in, not only accounted for, but are now in the Gambia. Now we're left with only with the fourth flight.
Dr. Abubakar Senghor explains that Hajj Commission officials and guides are doing all efforts possible to locate the 2 within Mecca before the final arrival on Friday.
The team, I spoke to the Amir a short while ago. The team on the ground are visiting hospitals. They are visiting all other isolated, remote areas, all areas where there is a probability of a pilgrim, being found. They are leaving no stone unturned. So alhamdulillah, so far so good. Only 2 are reported missing, and the search is being intensified. So 75% or more of the pilgrims with the 3 flights now within target. We are expecting the 4th flight, inshallah, on the 2nd of October.
Ibrahim Hassan Cham, Deputy Amirul Hajj, who is currently in the country, has told the state broadcaster that the Gambia has not encountered any casualty during the Hajj according to Saudi statistics, and believe that the 2 missing Gambians will be found in the shortest possible time. Those among the third flight have shared similar sentiments like their counterparts in the first and second about the country and its leadership. They all prayed for the continued peace and stability in the country. The last flight is expected to arrive on Friday, 2nd of October. Meantime, families are advised by the Gambia International Airline to follow the media for any developments. For GRTS News, I am Famarakani.
Local experts and actors in the domain of HIV/AIDS prevention and control have been reviewing and validating the national document that outlines ways of promoting safer sexual behaviors. The two-day interface, jointly staged by Action Aid the Gambia and the National AIDS Secretariat and funded by the Global Fund Against AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria, saw participants dissect the National Condom Strategy 2015. Samuel Bah has more in this report.
Stakeholders in the HIV/AIDS arena recently gathered to review and validate the comprehensive National Condom Strategy Plan 2015. The document highlights the need for safer sexual behavior, and it is expected to contribute to the national response in the fight against HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted infections.
It's an important workshop because we all know that there are an estimated 22,432 people, adults, who are living with HIV and AIDS in the Gambia. And we all know that heterosexual unprotected intercourse is the most common mode of transmission of HIV and AIDS pandemic. It is devastating, and it affects the most productive age group. So using condoms has been identified in our national HIV and AIDS policy of 2014 to 2020 and the National HIV/AIDS Strategic Framework 2013 to 2019 as one of the major ways of preventing the spread of HIV and AIDS.
Officials of the National AIDS Secretariat aligned themselves with the move, saying it could contribute towards improving the quality of reproductive health, as well as minimize the burden of the AIDS pandemic.
It's a developmental challenge, and we need to brace up and ready to help these people affected, as well as protect those not affected. In that regard, we develop a HIV and AIDS policy, as well as a strategy plan, and all these documents recommend condom as a preventive strategy. So this is an important meeting to validate this document, to guide the national response in using this condom.
Sirandao of UNAIDS acknowledged the continued intervention by partners in scaling down the effect of HIV/AIDS. She also called for enhanced coordination of efforts to improve overall national response through the implementation of the condoms program.
The strategy's aim is to ensure that we have access to quality condom at free or affordable prices to all people who need it. For it to have any impact on the response, there is need for it to be accessible. That has been a major bottleneck in the response. It's not freely accessible to all those who need it. Thus, the impact has not been that significant.
Action Aid the Gambia is a key partner in this drive of promoting safer sexual behavior.
To make sure that the youth are not sick, we will of course have to look at issues around prevention, preventing them from getting diseases. One of the ways, of course, to prevent youth from getting disease like HIV/AIDS is, of course, using a condom.
Baicham explains the rationale for reviewing the comprehensive national condom strategy.
The HIV epidemic is taking a different curve, targeting youths, getting more into youths, and this is a cause for concern. And this has been a cause for concern, and therefore all stakeholders need to come back and look at why the HIV prevalence is coming to youths. And in that, if you are doing that, you cannot isolate the use of condoms. You all know that young people do have sexual intercourse, as some studies have revealed that the sexual debut has get younger. Young people are getting into sex at an earlier age, and this is also a cause for concern. So the best bet for us in the HIV arena is to make sure that we avail condom to the people.
It came to a successful completion after stakeholders finally mapped out a way forward in the overall enhancement of safer sexual behavior, as entailed in this document dubbed National Condom Strategy 2015. Samuel Ba, GRTS.
The Communication, Planning Services and Soil and Water Management units of the Ministry of Agriculture have received an assortment of valuable equipment from the Food and Agriculture Sector Development Project and Gambia Commercialization and Value Chain Management Project. We have more in this report by Buba SMCC.
Food and Agriculture Sector Development Project, FASTEP, and Gambia Commercialization and Value Chain Management Project, GCAF, are committed to complementing the efforts of the government in boosting the production of farmers and as well providing quality service delivery for the improvement of their livelihoods. The presentation of these items is a testament to that fact.
FASTEP is funded by the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, GAPSIP, which is a multilateral mechanism to assist the implementation of pledges made by leaders of the G8 in Petersburg in 2009. Its purpose is to scale up support to help developing countries reduce poverty and improve rural livelihoods and food security by increasing agricultural productivity, linking farmers to market, reducing risk and vulnerability, improving non-farm rural households, and providing technical assistance.
The provision of communication gadgets to the Agriculture Communication Unit is to boost the quality of service. The coordinator of GCAF opined that the materials will undoubtedly improve the quality of production at the Communication and Extension Education Unit.
The equipment are to the tune of about $35,000 US. As you know, the GCAF project stands for Gambia Commercial Agriculture and Value Chain Management Project. And one of the main features of the project is that it is mainstream within the Ministry of Agriculture, so that you have a project team, but the implementation of the project lies within the service units within the Department of Agriculture. And that is deliberately chosen so that capacity, whatever is bought for the project, whatever the project does, remains within the service units within the departments of the Ministry of Agriculture.
The Director General of Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Sept, expressed gratitude for the gesture, assuring both FASTEP and GCAF of his ministry's commitment to utilizing the donated items.
I wish to sincerely thank, and from the bottom of my heart, thank the President of this country who made it possible and giving us the environment to be able to sit down, put heads together, and see what we believe would assist in helping the agricultural agenda forward. And be rest assured, every item that's been given here, you monitor, and I will assist you to monitor, and will give you feedback that they'll be put into good use.
Mr. Sarif Bojang, Permanent Secretary 2 at the Ministry of Agriculture, stressed the need for proper utilization of the materials.
The arrival of these motorcycles and the survey equipments are timely, as we are working towards the realization of the visions that we have targeted ourselves to. That is the Vision 2020, Vision 2016, and even Vision 2025. These items are of high quality as per the technical specifications and are fit for the purpose intended for. Materials must be used for the intended purpose, and the users has to be very responsible in the upkeep of the materials.
It's expected that if the materials are properly utilized, reaching out to farmers to know their problems and map out ways of addressing them, and as well strengthening the arm of communication unit among a host of others, will soon be realized. Buba SMCC, GRTS.
Funds amounting to $100,000 earmarked for the renovation of Waso Museum have been provided by Trust Bank Gambia Limited. The donation comes against the backdrop of feverish efforts on the part of institutions with a stake in tourism to turn the tide around. After what a less than desired tourist season, Kumbaba tells us more.
As part of their support to the country's development agenda, Trust Bank Limited has presented a check for $100,000 to the Ministry of Tourism and Culture through the National Center for Arts and Culture. The financial assistance is meant for the refurbishment of the Wasu Museum in time for the 2015 tourist season. This donation demonstrates the bank's commitment to help preserve and promote the cultural heritage of the country.
Noting the support that we have received from this bank over the years, and I think a great reflection, if you will, of the commitment of Trust Bank to issues of culture and heritage in this country. It is quite refreshing and very telling for a bank that considers itself to be homegrown and home-owned to showcase this by choosing to have as its corporate image reflections of our cultural heritage. I think that in itself speaks volumes of the type of bank Trust Bank is.
Officials of the National Center for Arts and Culture applauded the move, recognizing the services of Trust Bank Limited. They hailed the bank for its support in the preservation and promotion of Gambian cultural heritage.
As early as 2007, just a year after the stone circles were declared UNESCO World Heritage Sites, the bank adopted the stone circles as a brand symbol in promotion of their credo, the truly Gambian bank. The circles were depicted in various Trust Bank products, including their annual audited accounts and billboards. This certainly helped to bring the circles closer to the public. In 2009, Trust Bank also supported the printing of thousands of glossy promotional brochures on the stone circles.
This is one among several interventions the bank has been rendering in ensuring sustainability of the Gambian's culture, which serve as a product of the country's diverse tourist attraction.
We are here to make a presentation of $100,000 to the NCAC for the refurbishment of the Wasu site for the upcoming 2015-2016 tourist season. Since our first intervention with the NCAC, I guess it was in 2004, we have consistently been providing assistance to them where we feel it is necessary for us to intervene.
Given their numerous roles in the development of the tourist sector in the Gambia, the senior marketing manager at Trust Bank Limited explains the reason behind the donation.
You see the Trust Bank crew come for presentations of this nature. It's normally to intervene in the areas of education, health, disaster relief, and sport, which happens to be our priority areas of intervention, to partner, because we know that no government in the world can finance all aspects or all sectors of our environment or the development areas that the country has.
This intervention is expected to improve efforts to preserve the Wasu Stone Circle Museum and enhance the realization of the set goals before the 2015-2016 tourist season. Kumbaba, Grts News.
14 communities are set to receive funds to implement community-driven projects. This after going through a rigorous process that saw a staggering 112 grassroots organizations bidding to benefit from the Ambassador's Special Self-Help Grant. An NGO that is said to have the ability to produce concrete results has always been awarded a Julia Taft Refugee Fund Grant. Janke Ture reports.
The signing ceremony of two grant programs, the Ambassador Special Self-Help Fund and Julia Taft Refugee Fund project, represent in a small but meaningful way the embassy and the U.S. government's commitment to working with the people of the Gambia in poverty alleviation, community development, and sustainable livelihood improvement. 14 communities throughout the Gambia were awarded the Ambassador Special Self-Help Grant, which in turn is expected to fund selected projects. The beneficiaries are mainly community-driven projects, chosen out of 112 submitted proposals, and believe that they will significantly impact the lives of beneficiaries.
These projects have made it possible for many women to reduce the number of hours spent on hard labor just to feed their families, and have allowed them to spend more time on other income-generating activities. This, in turn, has provided more food for families and greater access to education for children. I feel certain that your communities, too, will experience similar benefits.
The Julia Taft Refugee Fund is designed to help people fleeing conflict and building new lives in their adopted countries. This, according to Maxwell, is meant to complement the efforts that Julia Taft had pioneered in supporting individuals and families fleeing the conflict in Casamance.
Previous projects funded by Julia Taft have supported individuals and families fleeing the conflict in Casamance and hosted by Gambian families across the Gambian-Senegalese border. The Refugee Commission of the Gambia has registered over 11,000 refugees in 81 communities along the border, and these are people who survive primarily on subsistence farming. Supporting a large refugee population through communities or individual families exacerbates already strained infrastructure and resources.
With increased community intervention through participatory development initiative, the projects are valuable life-changing development programs, which is expected to impact on the lives of Gambians, particularly those in the rural communities. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Lands and Regional Administration, thanked the U.S. Embassy for implementing such an important project, adding that it is not only important to the community, especially in the rural communities, but a meaningful contribution to nation development.
The Ambassador's self-help program started in the Gambia quite a while, and since inception, it has motivated and assisted our communities in trying to alleviate their poverty and also uphold their economic status as farmers, as Gambians, as women.
Among other speakers included Guarantees representatives who jointly thanked the U.S. Embassy for helping them with such a facility.
Indeed, it is historic in the sense that the documents we have just signed is binding us, and we are into partnership to implement activities that will benefit the people that we work for.
This development is a demonstration of the embassy's and the U.S. government's commitment to working with the people of the Gambia on community development issues and also helping transform the lives of refugees in the Gambia. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Janke Toure.
Gambians have for the longest time been watching stories of people in distant lands told by people far removed from our experiences who more often than not ride roughshod on our cultural and religious sensibilities in the name of entertainment. Well, that could be attributed to what was until recently a chronic dearth of movie-making talent. But the status quo seemed to be changing for former fugitive rap group member Tijan Jabang alias Tasman, and a small group of novices have committed themselves to telling the Gambia story and that of her people, with special focus on some of the ills of today's Gambia in the low-budget movie called Alaji Banjul. H.N. Silva reports.
Gambian people, humble and simple, sing for Malaysia.
From a rap artist to a film producer, renowned Tijan Jabang, aka Tasman, is one entertainer who is currently making waves in the country's growing movie industry with his debut Alaji Banjul potential blockbuster.
Afang, wow, waju baji, wow, ki yo dang len de defar wala tama buga ko isi fini, wow, momit, luy wor sagam, wow.
The movie, starring some rookie actors of the Gambia movie industry, tells the story of a real-time unruly activities facing today's society, like theft, gossip, and hypnotism in particular.
Alaji Banjul is based on a story, life that has happened in the Gambia. People going around, calling people, telling them that they are marabouts. They can, you know, give them this. If they do this, then and by hypnotizing them, they got them into trouble, you know, or by shaking your hand.
The film producer himself was not a victim of hypnotism, but his neighbors were. And that is why he chooses to put it into camera and send a striking message to enhance society.
It happened to my neighbors, two of my neighbors that I really witnessed, and the story is based on it and a life one of my neighbors that lives in my street, you know. So I decided to make this movie and make a story to sensitize the people.
This is perhaps the first time for Tasman to produce a film, but will definitely not be the last should his piece of work be funded.
Yeah, funding, because this is an industry where bills make bills, you know. You want to make a good production of movie, you got to get budget for it first, you know, good budget, you know, depending on the script. Secondly, I'm appealing to the media, like platforms like this, Grts, you know, if we can have our own program that deals with only a promotion, you know.
The Indil Masalov singer is still a practicing rapper. Nonetheless, he wants to concentrate more on his newfound career. The movie is in its promotional stage and could pave the way for other series to follow suit as soon as it hits the local and international markets. Until then, the producer hopes Alaji Banjul will bring about desired change in society. Etienne Silva, Grts News.
News from outside the Gambia is up next. Stick with us. In 3 days' time, Germany will mark the anniversary of the reunification in the coming days. The media the world over will be looking at the fall of communism in East Germany, how it happened and what it means for the country's place in the world today. One man has been so closely associated with the reunification of Germany more than any other. Helmut Kohl has been dubbed the reunification chancellor. He recognized the opportunities for a united German state and overcame tough opposition, both at home and abroad. After the euphoria of the fall of the Berlin Wall, he quickly came up with a plan, and it took him less than a year to turn it into a reality. We have more in this DWTV report.
Helmut Kohl in front of the Reichstag on the 3rd of October 25 years ago, the reunification chancellor. That's how he's remembered in the history books today, but he was not always popular. At his first appearance in Berlin after the fall of the wall, he was roundly booed.
The federal government in Bonn, with Helmut Kohl in charge, came into play much later. Initially, they were very reserved, and Kohl didn't want to destabilize the situation. Kohl himself only took up the initiative at the end of November 1989.
The German government was under pressure. As the world looked at the events in Germany, the political situation within the country remained turbulent. Kohl's popularity had been low for months.
Back then I said to him, the benefit of being the chancellor was that he could set the agenda, determine the discussion. And there was only one topic at that time: the reunification of Germany. If he wanted it, and if so, how he planned to do it.
Kohl decided to take up the challenge. At the end of November in 1989, he introduced his now famous 10-point plan to Parliament.
Today, nobody really knows what a reunified Germany will look like. But I'm certain, if the people of Germany want it, reunification will take place.
In his speech, the Chancellor spoke of German self-determination and of a confederation with the GDR. At the time, he had no timetable for the plan. Even his own foreign minister was taken by surprise. Abroad, his plan was heavily criticized. The four allies of the Second World War felt they should also have a say in any effort to reunify Germany.
When Helmut Kohl made his famous 10-point speech, at the end of November 1989, we were not even told, let alone consulted, before that speech. That gave a feeling that Cole was trying to run away with change and not being willing to consult others.
The French were surprised by Cole's plan, and Moscow felt equally ignored. Washington was only informed at the last minute, but the Americans recognized a great opportunity.
In hindsight, the 10-point plan was a new chapter for Germany, because it was an independent and autonomous initiative. It was also acknowledged by Washington. And without the initiative, the plan would never have really gathered momentum.
Kohl still had to convince his skeptics. He promised that a reunified Germany would remain firmly anchored within Europe. He also pledged closer economic integration with his European partners. While garnering support for his plan abroad was vital, winning over voters in West and East Germany was just as crucial.
When he visited Dresden at the end of 1989 and realized how strong the emotion was, that was a very important moment because the East German state started to unravel and collapse. He acted very, very quickly. He realized that he had to push his allies. He sometimes had to be rude to his allies, but this was an essential part of his strategy.
While the East German government distanced itself from Kohl, in Dresden he was celebrated in the streets. His first visit to the GDR was a turning point for the West German Chancellor.
The hopes of those involved in this mass movement in the GDR were becoming increasingly concentrated on Helmut Kohl and the West German government. And within just a few weeks, Bonn, which had initially been hesitant, had taken up the reins and was actively steering the reunification process.
Helmut Kohl's 10-point plan gave the necessary impetus to Germany's reunification at a crucial moment in history. Less than a year later, a united Germany was celebrating the end of 4.5 decades of separation.
NATO special forces are supporting the Afghan army as it battles the Taliban in the northern city of Kunduz. The push to retake the city has been hampered by roadside bombs, and government reinforcements have been ambushed. For those living in the region, the situation is critical. Let's look at this DWTV report for more on that.
The fight for Kunduz is intensifying as weary Afghan soldiers dig in, waiting for reinforcements. Around 5,000 troops took positions at the city's airport, driving back Taliban fighters, only with the help of NATO airstrikes. The situation is better now. As you're aware, some areas have been retaken by security forces. The operation is ongoing. We retook the new police headquarters, the jail, and some parts of the city. We have a presence in the city now. But back in the capital, Kabul, lawmakers are calling on President Ashraf Ghani to resign. Many blame him for what they consider a shameful response to the fall of Kunduz, the Taliban's most audacious attack since losing power 14 years ago. The leaders of the Afghan National Unity Government are unable to control the current situation in the country. The people must stand against them. Why should they be allowed to govern the people? And sentiment against Ghani is growing among female lawmakers. They gathered outside Parliament, supporting calls for him to leave office. We don't want to hear more lies. The government keeps telling us that we're sending troops, but it's almost 72 hours that people inside the city have been suffering without food, water, or electricity. Children and women are starving inside the city. Afghan forces have struggled to hold off a revitalized Taliban since the departure of foreign troops last year. Whether they can take back Kunduz now is anything but certain.
Russian airplanes have started airstrikes in Syria. The attacks were carried out just near the city of Homs, shortly after the Syrian president announced he had requested military assistance from Moscow. Russian lawmakers have given unanimous backing for the airstrikes. We have more in this DWTV report.
These are Russia's planes in Syria, secretly filmed by a French television crew. Now it seems they're in the sky, flying missions against Islamic State positions in Homs province. A US official said they had been informed of an active operation just a few hours after the Russian upper house of parliament had granted the necessary permission. We are talking about Syria. The point at issue is not any wider ambition, as our Western partners regularly claim. We are talking about an airborne operation only. Ground operations are out of the question. The Russian presence in Latakia is no secret. The town is a stronghold of President Bashar al-Assad. I saw Russian airplanes. Everyone's talking about it, but no one has seen soldiers in the streets. We are happy the Russians are fighting with us. We count on them to finish off the rebels quickly. If reports of airstrikes are confirmed, things have been moving fast. Russian parliamentary approval, Assad asking for military help, and action, all within a few hours. These are Russia's planes in Syria, secretly filmed by a French television crew. Now it seems they're in the sky, flying missions against Islamic State positions in Homs province. A US official said they had been informed of an active operation just a few hours after the Russian upper house of parliament had granted the necessary permission. We are talking about Syria. The point at issue is not any wider ambition, as our Western partners regularly claim. We are talking about an airborne operation only. Ground operations are out of the question. The Russian presence in Latakia is no secret. The town is a stronghold of President Bashar al-Assad. I saw Russian airplanes. Everyone's talking about it, but no one has seen soldiers in the streets. We are happy the Russians are fighting with us. We count on them to finish off the rebels quickly. If reports of airstrikes are confirmed, things have been moving fast. Russian parliamentary approval, Assad asking for military help, and action, all within a few hours.
We'll go for another break, but when we return, we have sports news for you. Welcome back. Gambia's top two sprinters, Gina Bass and Adama Jammeh, recorded solid performances in the recently concluded All-Africa Games Championship in Brazzaville, Congo. Both sprinters set new national records, but it was in the judo that the Gambia made history, as Finnish-based judoka Fainjai marked his first performance in Gambian colors with a silver medal. Babukar Senghor tells us more.
2015 should be remembered as one of the Gambia's most successful sporting months. Dedicate the month as the Gambia Sporting Month, and few will complain. So much did happen in our sports in September. Gambia hosted Cameroon, and despite a narrow 1-0 defeat, the game showcased the country's unity and collective desire in the pursuit of a common goal. It was one of those days that provides a bird's-eye view of what it is to be Gambian. Few days later, and in Vegas, Barry Jack, formerly of Sweden, announced that he will represent Gambia, and if that wasn't enough, he followed that with a stellar performance in a fight against a British boxer. He won comfortably. He's got an enviable CV and a proud member of the Floyd Mayweather staple. He wouldn't become the only Euro-based sports personality to switch sides. When Gambia was preparing for the All-Africa Games, the name Fainjai was hardly mentioned. 2 weeks later, he left the games in Brazzaville with his reputation enhanced as one of the finest judokas in Africa. He proved that with a silver medal haul. Gambia went to the All-Africa Games 2015 with arguably the smallest contingent of athletes, but largely outperformed some of the traditional powerhouses with greater numbers of athletes.
Most of our athletes in athletics right now are camped in Senegal training. And we have most of the Senegalese athletes who are representing them based in France, Italy, and other high-performance centers. And when we came into the All-African Games, it was our athletes beating their athletes. So that tells you that we have the talent. It's all about nurturing the talents and making best use of these talents, giving them the support that they need.
Idaba was with the athletes and watched much of the actions in Congo, and was in a better position to gauge the progress made by Gambia's few band of sportsmen and women in the 2015 edition of the Continental Games.
In judo, it was a very good result. That was where we had the silver medal with NJIE. He had 5 fights in one day, and the 5th one was the final where he was defeated by an Egyptian. But fortunately for him, that was a silver medal.
There were personal success stories for the country's sprint champions. Both Gina Bass and Adama Jame set new national records in Brazzaville. Adama hit a season's best of 2073 in the finals of the 200 meters race, while his compatriot Gina added a new season's best of 2413 in the semi-finals of the women's 200 meters race.
In the 100 meters, he made it to the heats, to the semi-finals, and of course to the finals. Coming to the 200 meters, the same thing happened. And you could see from the pictures what he did, making it to the finals, competing with the likes of Obina from Nigeria, knowing that right now he is one of the best in those categories in Africa. He did well and then made his personal best timing. Coming to Gina, she broke the national record for 200 meters women, which was really good for Gina, and that was also her personal best in this season, or you call it in athletics season's best, which was really good.
Overall, it was a splendid month for Gambian sports, a month that brought back the feel-good factor in our collective consciousness as a country and as a people. For Grts Sport, this is Babkar Senghor.
And before we take leave of you, a recap of the day's main stories. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Njie Sedi has joined world leaders taking turns to discuss issues of global concern at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Experts in malaria control have been assessing their scorecard and outlining strategies that earned the Gambia its impressive track record in the battle against the major killer disease. A united Germany is gearing up to commemorate the anniversary of the reunification with East Germany and the defeat of communism. And Russian fighter jets have been pounding targets in the Syrian city of Homs, barely an hour after Moscow informed Washington of its intention. Well, that was all in this edition of the News Hour. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Stay tuned to GRTS and enjoy the rest of our interesting programs.